there's definitely something you're trying to cover up, something you're trying to numb, something you're trying to escape from. Substances are medicine that people use
Mhm.
to self-medicate and try to cover up what's really wrong. If you want real recovery, if you want lasting recovery, you have to dig deep. You have to cut some of that scar tissue away and get down to the root cause of why do I keep doing this to myself? Because that's the thing. We ain't hurting nobody else by doing this. We're always hurting us.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get the jitters out of you. We're recording, baby.
Oh my gosh.
We're rolling. Um, three, two, one. Welcome back to Start the Conversation, everybody. I'm your host, Dalton. We are filming this today from Chatfield, Texas at Hidden Oaks, our inpatient facility. We're located about an hour south of Dallas, right down 45. Easy enough to get to, but far enough away to be named Hidden Oaks, a great place of serenity and quiet and peace and a good place to find hope and resolution. Um, we got in this field over, well, the majority of us got in this field over 10 years ago at a previous facility. And we stayed together since then. Our boss, our CEO, he's been in the mental health and addiction field for multiple decades, and we have over 100 years experience combined with all of our leadership team. And this is really a place you can come to find hope and peace and really start getting down and working on the road to recovery. So if you like this podcast, check us out. More videos on YouTube. You can go to resolutionshealthcare.com. You can call us at 469-614-8407. We will pick up the phone or we will call you back. Um, for real, reach out to us if you need help. And today we're joined by our one of our very own. Our special guest today is LA. Um, what's up, LA? How you doing?
I am doing very good.
All right, LA. Um, you are a counselor here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us who you are and how you came to be with us.
Yeah, so my name is Angeles. Here I'm called LA. I got that nickname from Mr. Mo because he was asking me, "How do you pronounce your name?" And I'm like, "Well, just think of Los Angeles." And he said LA. So I stuck with that. I'm like, "Hey, it works." So it's a very unique um name. The reason why I got my name was because my parents thought I was going to be a boy, so my dad was going to give pass down his middle name, which is Angel. Which I wouldn't mind him naming me Angel because it's like a unisex name, but he decided, the time that I was born, he gave his life to Christ. So when he would read the Bible, it mentioned a lot about Angeles, which means angels. And that's when he gave me my name, Angeles, into it. A little bit about me. I am the baby of the family. I'm the youngest of four. My family is from Oaxaca, Mexico. So viva Oaxaca. My parents are born and raised in Mexico. They came into this country, and then they had one of my older sisters in Mexico. They had my two older siblings in New York, and then they had me here in Texas. So I'm the firstborn being here in Texas. Born and raised here in Texas. I was raised in Garland, Texas. God had other plans that led me here out in the country. So
That's
now I'm
right.
here living in the country, living the good life for 3 years already, completing 3 years living here in the country. That's a little bit about me.
You told me yesterday about driving up to and driving into Kaufman and doing
Property
some
taxi.
property taxes. Tell me that story.
Yeah, so it was actually a year ago. A year ago, I was working at an immigration law firm. It was a long distance because living from the country to the city, it's like about an hour and a half drive. And I was already kind of wanting to seek into what it was, in my career pathway. And then it came to the point where I went to go pay my property taxes. I had kind of already had in mind of what I wanted, continue to my with my LCDC counseling. But once I parked right in front of the Resolutions Healthcare in Kaufman. And I just remember sitting there staring at it, and I took a photo because that was the first thing that said addiction center, recovery addiction center. And that was the moment when I was like looking through the window, seeing like, wow, this place looks so interesting. I feel like this is like for me. Like this is something that I was going to school for. And I went to pay my property taxes. And then I went over again this year. That same parking spot was still available for me in front of Resolutions Healthcare too. And that was basically how I found out about Resolutions. I went home, I did my research, I looked up Resolutions Healthcare, I emailed, I got a response from Gerald, and I was able to, get an interview with Miss Laura and get to meet the whole crew and everybody here.
And it's been a year since you've been with us, right?
Almost,
Almost a year?
almost, almost, yes, and
Almost off probation.
almost on probation, yeah, almost on
Her
probation
probation period gets longer and longer and longer.
every time, so almost there.
All right, LA. Well, let's dig into the good stuff. What first drew you into this field? Why'd you come to do addiction treatment work?
Yeah, so it all started when I was graduating high school. I was 18 years old. My first the first thing that I actually wanted to do pursuing in my career pathway was cosmetology. I wanted to become a hairstylist, makeup artist. That was something that I wanted to do. Since I am the baby, I'm like 12 years apart from my older siblings. So I looked up a lot to what they were doing. My first older sister, she was a counselor. She had her LCDC. She was working for Nexus Women's in Recovery. My second older sister, she was a cosmetologist. She was into hair and makeup. And then my brother, he was just he was just there. So I always
Like
looked up
most
to
of us.
yeah, he was just, just chilling, just living the stay-at-home son, I guess. So I looked up a lot to my sisters to see, and I was more driven into my second older sister in cosmetology. But then I kind of would already had my mindset that that's something that I wanted to do. After I graduated, one of the things that my dad told me is that he wanted me to go to college. He wanted me to continue education, school, and I feel like that wasn't for me. And since I was the youngest, I felt a lot of pressure because they were really like encouraging me, like, you're the last one. What is it that you want to do? What is it? So I had no idea. I'm like, I just wanted, cosmetology was my one main thing. And the one thing that caught my attention was I started looking for jobs. And my older sister, I went up to her to help me with my resume and what to do, what to apply, what to say. And one of the things she told me, she was like, hey, like you should come to Nexus and do a lot of volunteer work. That's going to look great in your resume. And I remember I would go a lot of times, not just once, but the first time that I went, I was very touched by the counselors that I met, the people that I met there, the clients, everyone there. It was just, and I looked up and just seeing the work that my sister was doing there as an LCDC counselor, it just really impacted me. I was just seeing her. She is I feel like for her, she reminds me so much of Alice, here. So just seeing her is like when I see Alice, it's like I see my sister. So basically my sister was just like Alice. Everybody who has met her, that's how my sister is. And when I saw her, I was like, wow, like that's something that really I saw a different part of her because at home, she's a sister, but once I was able to see her, I saw her as a counselor, a helper, somebody that people, gain their trust to and everything. And it was a different type of side of her that I saw that made me see her very different respect and an inspiration. Through there, she introduced me to all the counselors there and they gave me a task. And they were like, oh, you're going to graduate. Your sisters tell us that you graduated. What are you going to do? And I'm like, hospitality. And I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. But one specific counselor told me, she was like, I'm gonna challenge you. I'm gonna ask you a question. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, go to all your friends, ask them what they're majoring, and then come back to me and let me know what they
This is when
say.
you're graduating high school,
Yeah, when
or
I was graduating high school. So I told her, I'm like, you know what, yeah, like I'll go ahead and I'll ask all my friends. I asked all my friends what they were majoring in, doctor, nursing, veterinarian, all these different things. And I went back to that counselor. She's like, "What did your friends say? What did the people that in the same grade level as you said?" And I'm like, "They're all gonna major in, nursing, doctor, all these different things. And she's like, "Did any of them said counselor, therapist?" I'm like, "No." And when she was telling me, one of the things she told me is, we need counselors, we need therapists, it's something that we need people to social workers, we don't have a lot of those. And when I saw it, it was like a small group of women. It was like four women. It wasn't like a big, big group. So once I saw it, it was like, making a small step of wanting to seek addiction and her talking to me and I'm like, "You know what? I don't feel like this is for me." And one of the things that she told me, she's like, "You might think she was older. She was an older woman." So she's like, "I just graduated with my LCDC with my associates and everything." She's like, "If I could do it at her age," which I believe she was like in her 50s around there. She was like, "I recently just graduated." And she's like, "If I could do it, you could do it too."
Yeah.
And that gave me a lot of encouragement because, the fact that I was able to see that and the way how she was able to do it a lot. And not just that, but hearing my sister's story of why she got into LCDC, made it seem a lot more different too, because my dad was an alcoholic. And due to my sister's childhood, it became a lot with her witnessing my dad being an alcoholic, coming home, and my mom dealing with him. Once I was born, I didn't witness any of that since
Mm,
my older siblings were there. They always protected me from viewing that. So my siblings were more like my parents. Um, Arguments or anything, but I never once saw my dad drunk. I never saw my mom never anything. She was never into substance use, but once I was born, that was when my dad gave his life to Christ, when I saw a major change and believed that my sister was like, once I saw dad, it gave me hope that other people could do it too. And, her story impacted everybody too. Because I looked at her and I'm like, not that we're a perfect family, but it made me question like why an addiction, why and when she told me about my dad, that's something that I did not know until I was 18 years old.
yeah.
I came to realize that my dad was an alcoholic. I had an alcoholic dad.
Yeah, that definitely, when you have family going through it, it
Mhm.
it can definitely play a part.
Yes, it can.
How do you explain addiction to someone who's never experienced it? Somebody who hasn't had a family member addicted to substances, somebody who doesn't know about addiction. How do you explain it to them?
The way how I explain it, because I do have friends that actually do tell me, I feel like addiction, it's something that a lot of people, like my mom says, you're into bad habits. Anything that you tend to rely on, anything that you tend to be on, and a lot of times me growing up, one of the main things that I saw is like a lot of girls, boyfriends. And I need a man in my life, and I need a man, like relying on things. And then I feel like with addiction is something to be obsessive
Yeah.
about it. And that's the way how I explain it. You don't need to rely on substance use or a man or anything in your life that you need to rely on to go and find what it is that makes you feel good. And you can find it on yourself. So I feel like addiction doesn't necessarily have to be from substance use, but I feel like it's an obsession that you are towards anything that you're relying and falling into.
Nice. Is addiction more about substances or what's underneath them? What do you think about that?
If it's addiction, can you repeat the question?
Is addiction more about substances or about what's underneath them? Are there underlying causes? What's your take on that?
I would say underlying causes for sure. Once I was going into in school for counseling, one of the first things that one of my professors says is addiction always comes from home. And that's something that it's true, of a lot of things of you have to find out of where it is, arguments, anything that happens in your life or anything that, the way you were raised, the people in your life, it comes from home. It comes from a lot of things. And that was one of the things that I questioned my dad too of what made you want to, drink. And one of the things he would tell me is because the way of his childhood, the way he was born, the way how he felt, and he felt that substances was a way that made him feel. So I feel like it really does have to do with something that is underneath it for sure.
Yeah. I believe that, 100%. Yeah, people may start um drinking or partying in high school because it is fun and they fit in and um but when it gets to the stage of it's an everyday thing, it's something that I have to do to keep going and to feel normal
Yeah.
and to feel okay. There's definitely something you're trying to cover up, something you're trying to numb, something you're trying to escape from. Um, you know, substances are medicine that people use
Mhm.
to self-medicate and try to cover up what's really wrong. So I believe to fix it, that $1 million question, how do we fix addiction? How do you get sober? Well, you got to get to the root. You got to get to those underlying causes. Why do you keep doing this? You've done it year after year. We see people come to rehab after rehab after rehab, but they never dig deep. They just scratch the surface. They don't work through any of their trauma, any of their life events from the past that really got a hold on them. And if you want real recovery, if you want lasting recovery, you have to dig deep. You have to you have to cut some of that scar tissue away and get down to the root cause of why do I keep doing this to myself? Because that's the thing, we ain't hurting nobody else by doing this. We're always hurting us.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just to pick up on that too is more of like, what they say is when you're drunk, you're not yourself. You're a totally different person. You become more, I feel like your emotions tend to come out, another side of you,
Yeah,
where you become emotional or angry. And it's like, what is it? But it's everything that you've been holding on to so much that makes you feel like that.
for sure. For sure. In your opinion, what does real recovery look like beyond just being sober? Can you answer that?
Yes. So real recovery looks like something that is for everything, in my opinion, something that you have to continue to do for yourself. I feel like there's no end point into it. There's no finish line. There's not going to be a time of graduation where you're just like, all right, I did it. It's done. I'm done. No, I feel like recovery is an ongoing thing that you have to continue to do it every single day, even in times when it gets hard, even when times of anything that you may be going through, it's something that you have to continue to be there for yourself, showing up for yourself, learning more about yourself, and appreciating the sober lifestyle, the sobriety that you could bring into it because every little thing it's just it's a learning experience that you tend to learn more and continue to seek more about yourself. So I feel like it's an ongoing thing.
Ongoing thing. Um, I can to be sober, that's easy. All I got to do is take away the substance, right? However you want to imagine doing that, just taking away the substance, being locked away from everything. Um, but then once I give you back the key or once you're back surrounded by the substances, well, if you haven't done any recovery work, you're going to be right back to it.
Mhm.
So I believe a big difference in being sober versus being in recovery is being in recovery, you have the tools to keep going and the tools to not go backwards. But being sober, it's just, you're not really living in recovery.
Yeah. So just continue to do what it is that it's making you feel like yourself, like the tools of healthy grounding techniques.
Right. And that brings us to the next point, the next chapter is what role does community, what role does relationships play in long-term recovery? What can you say about that?
Oh, my go-to is church.
Yeah.
That's my community right there. Church is something that I feel like For me, it helps me a lot. Anything that I'm going through, anything that I feel, even when I feel unmotivated, and I'm like, I don't even feel like going to church, but when I go, it's like going to the gym. You know, if you want to see progress within yourself, you have to continue going to the gym, taking your protein, eating healthy. You have to do the steps and able to see progress within yourself. And I feel like going to church, reading your Bible, praying. Sometimes I do fasting, things that you need to do to stay aligned with God. It's gonna be the struggles, it's gonna be hard, but one thing, even when I feel the most unmotivated times and I go to church, I hear what I needed to hear. That's gonna fulfill me. That makes me feel like when I enter the church, I don't leave the same. I leave different. I leave feeling good too. And that was one of the things too at school. You know, school for me when I was into LCDC counseling, it was very it didn't feel like school. It felt like a community. It felt like we were all able there to talk about what is it, our struggles, how is it at home. You know, sometimes we would, analyze ourselves. So I feel like community is very, very important. They would even tell us like join AA, NA, and then just joining, it's the same thing. Once you go in, you don't leave feeling the same. It's like you tend to let out everything. You get to be with people who have the same beliefs as you, who are also makes you feel like you're not alone. So for me, the biggest community and for me is that has helped me a lot is church.
Right. Yeah. If you don't get plugged in, church, AA, NA, a home group, something, anything is better than nothing. Um, and when you're in recovery, we're not operating on an island. You're not operating in a vacuum. We live in this world and we cannot be sober and stay in recovery if we're isolated. Somebody said connection is the opposite of addiction.
Yeah,
I don't remember where that came from,
I believe Miss Laura.
Miss Laura.
Yeah, I've heard it too.
Um, well, we're not going to give credit to Miss Laura. We'll say somebody else. No. Um, but yeah, connection is the opposite of addiction. So if we go by that definition, we got to be a part of a community and stay connected to other people. Because when we get isolated, we're by ourselves. That addictive brain pops back up and takes over control. Where here comes the negative thoughts, here comes the depression, the anxiety. Just lay it all out on the table, and it makes us feel like we're a wreck,
Mhm.
and we run back to the substances.
Something cool too is that nowadays, you just go into your phone, Google Maps, it shows any type of community that you may be looking for.
Yeah,
There's going to be AA available for you anywhere in your area. Any
definitely.
day, anytime, there's going to be a whole, even virtual too. If you can't go, just hop online and it's always going to be available for you too.
Let's see here. Find a good question for you. What boundaries are most important in early recovery from your perspective?
Boundaries, I would put boundaries and people in your life. The people in your life that you know, um, setting that boundary with yourself and who are you surrounding yourself with, of the people in your life, who are the people that you want to keep in your life and the people that you feel are um not going to be able to respect or help you grow into it. And I can speak that for me because I feel like one of the things that I never set boundaries, I was like a people pleaser. And I never set that boundary with my cousins. I would always be the one to, yeah, let's do this, let's do that, and I'll be the one to drive, and I'll be the one, yes, yes, all to gain that people pleasing for to fit in. I never set that boundary of putting myself in consideration of like, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. They should understand. They should respect it. They should, be able to know that a no is a no, but I feel like just cutting people off, and I did that, removing people that I feel like are not worth my growth and going into the different pathway. I tend to feel more at peace in setting that boundary. So I feel like first knowing your audience of the people that you want to keep, that you know that are good people, and the people that are not, just but setting that boundary of either removing them or letting them know how it is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely gotta. You're gonna be in recovery. There's gonna have to be some lines drawn and some people that you're not willing to go around no more. And it's just it's for your betterment.
It is.
If I'm trying to grow, I can't be surrounded by people that are going the opposite way that I am.
Hmm.
They're gonna pull me back more than I pull them forward.
Yeah.
Uh,
There was a pastor that I listened to, and one of the things he said, and he got me there, where he was like, "Show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are."
yeah,
And I was like, "I don't want to show you." And I started to analyze myself, like I would sit back and just look at my friends, how they are. And it is true, you hang out with those people, you tend to act a little bit like them too, or you tend to like the same things for a reason, you attract the same things that you want to. And so after that, I was like, yeah, once he said that, it was like you have to make that change for yourself of your surroundings, of who you are, how do you want to be, looked into it. And that to me, I feel like one of the major things that was something that I needed to do, but it's hard to do. But once I did it, man, you see a difference. I feel major, major peace that it's like unbothered and good to actually just stay where I'm at and just continue, keep
yeah.
going forward.
Amen. Amen. All right, we're coming up on the close, and we always end these with a bit of advice. So, if someone is listening to this podcast and they're struggling, what's the bit of advice? What would you want to say directly to that?
Something I would say is it's never too late. Never too late to seek recovery. There's always going to be the time is now, there's always going to be the right time. But if you feel like you are struggling now, only you know yourself. But if you feel in your heart that you can't anymore, there is hope, there is help, there is support, there is so much more that you can gain from it. And all you have to do is be yourself, prepare yourself ready first, but also mentally wise, just take out all the doubts away from yourself. But more importantly, having that hope within yourself that you can actually do this. But there's never really it's never too late to start. So if you a lot of times you tend to feel like, no, I can't do this, no, I can't, or feeling discouraged. But there is, there's courage there, there's times that you could do it, and there's hope that you could do it. I feel like if I was able to witness one of the people that I look up to, my father, that he was able to do it, I know that there's hope for everybody else, that anybody else could do it too. You just need that little push to encouraging yourself that you could do this.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Thank you for that, LA, and thank you for everything. Thank you for coming on the podcast today and sharing some of your story and sharing some advice from a counselor's perspective. I think that's what I'm going to call this episode, the counselor's perspective. Um, but guys, we will see y'all on the next one. Again, if you like this podcast, this information, this discussion, please leave a comment. Leave a comment about what you want to see in an episode. Leave a comment about questions that you have. Give it a like and a share. Subscribe to us if you feel like it. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out.
Bye, everyone.